All right, what's going on, my friends? Now 3 o'clock. Football season is here. The kickoff classic Saturday morning at 9 on ESPN. Number 10, Florida State will meet Georgia Tech. The Seminoles are favored by 10. Quarterback news from the NFL. Antonio Pierce has named Gardner Minshew the Raiders' starting quarterback for the 2024 season. And the Washington Commanders have named Jaden Daniels, rookie, their starting quarterback. In Denver, Sean Payton is yet to name a starter after Bo Nix's 8 of 9 performance with a touchdown last night against Green Bay. Elsewhere in college football, Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy has told his players to have their agents to stop calling and trying to negotiate for more money, saying their next chance to negotiate is when the portal opens in December. The Reeling Mariners open a 3-game set in Los Angeles tonight against the Dodgers. Brian Wu will get the call for Seattle. That first pitch is at 7:10. The M's now 4 games back of the Astros in the West. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad's coming up next. At 4:20, we head to Denver and talk to Brandon Cristal for a Bo Nix update. And Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio at 5:20.
The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, presented by Lazy Boy. What is your strategy for comfort?
As Concordo swings, he belts one deep right, on its way, gone! And the Giants go back-to-back in the 10th.
If I don't do it before the end of my career, I don't think my dad's going to let me live it down. So I'm not at all people. So I'm for sure going to get it done at some point.
The challenge has been made.
Steele gets it. No, they're going to fake it to him. They get it to Kelsey on that RPO fake, and he throws it behind his back. Mahomes has been practicing this at camp. Everybody's wanting him to do it. He just did it for 9 yards.
But we still use a bunch of older guys on the sideline with sticks to measure whether a ball carrier got a first down or not. Nothing against the older guys with sticks.
Yeah, but it looks nice. It looks nice as I'm sweating my balls off trying to get to my plane. Wonderful.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad starts now.
All right, what's going on, my friends? Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad and Godfather. I thought a little college football music was appropriate because now, moving forward, we won't have another Saturday for like the next 6 or 7 months without college football, and that is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's going to be at least that long when you consider those tiers of playoffs that are going to go on for a while.
It's going to be awesome, man. We got a big show today. We have a Bo Nix update coming up at 4:20. Brandon Cristal from 850 KOA in Denver will join the show coming off the Broncos' 27-2 victory over the Packers last night. Good performance for Bo Nix, 8 of 9. Had a touchdown pass, but Sean Payton still waiting to name a starter, which is interesting to me. And then at 5:20, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, will join us, and we'll go around the NFL and talk about some of the different storylines that we're seeing here in the preseason. It's now just 1 week of preseason left, and then we get that down week and go through Labor Day before the kickoff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But before we get to that, I saw your pictures. You sent me some videos of the Pretenders who opened up for Foo Fighters on Friday over at Providence Park. What was your overall takeaway from the show, the outdoor venue, the setup at Providence Park, and then the music itself?
I thought they did a great job of getting Providence Park ready for a concert. Stage was huge, really big, plenty of big screens to watch because there were a lot of people sitting a long way from the stage. I would say binoculars would be good for a lot of those seats. You know, if you were in the Timbers Army sections, north end of the stadium, that stage is a long way from there. And all of that was good. The problem's twofold, Chad. Everybody knows by now there's no parking for that stadium. There's just none. And so
But there's never been, right?
Right, never. And they want you to take Max, which is probably the best way, except the Max trains look to be packed. But then once you got to the stadium, not enough entrance gates, in my opinion. The lines at all the gates were too long, and security, they would have like one security person at each gate checking bags and everything. So if you had somebody with a big backpack or something, they were messing around with that for a couple minutes. Well, you multiply that by 150 people waiting in line. That's quite a long time to wait to get in. And so they need to do something about that. But they got 30,000 people or thereabouts, you know. They don't have turnstiles at stadiums anymore, so who knows what the actual attendance was. But a lot of people were there. Not many empty seats, but it was a good concert. Grohl, as usual, did a good job. They play one song after another. They play longer versions of their hits rather than shorter versions. He did a great job of introducing everybody in the band. And usually that's just a part of one song. But like they introduced the lead guitarist. The guy played he played a riff that was about 4 or 5 minutes long. It was really good. And his new drummer is excellent. And it was a fun night. It really was a fun night.
I mean, for me, I couldn't care less about being able to see the stage. I think that's an overrated experience. I care about the acoustics. How did it sound for an outdoor venue?
Well, as usual in the outdoor venues, it was loud, real loud. And I would say this, often they get the mix fouled up to where the instruments are louder than the vocals. And the instruments at times took over, and you really couldn't hear him sing a lot. It didn't happen a lot with them. It happened more with the Pretenders, actually, than it did with the Foo Fighters. The other thing I would say is, you know, I know they're always worried about noise regulations when they have an outdoor concert there, because there are a lot of residencies around there. They wouldn't worry about the noise as much this time, as they probably got a lot of complaints from people living around there about the language. Because Grohl, he'll blow out an F-bomb in every sentence. I mean, there's no filter at all there. And so, and frankly, Chad, I don't know how. He screams a lot. I don't know how he does that for 2.5 hours without his voice just leaving him forever. And he's got this problem now, you know, he can barely hear. He's got to have special listening devices in his ear above the usual ultimate ears that most guys wear. His stuff is special because he has a terrible time hearing things. That might make him sing a little louder too, I think. But goodness, he abuses his voice.
It's not the first time you've seen him. How'd this one stack up to the rest?
As good as any, but see, my experience has always been he does a good concert. I've always felt that way. And he plays all the hits you want to hear. He doesn't leave anything out, you know, and they have a lot of hits. And he plays them all pretty much. And then he'll mix in a few new things, or he mixed in one that I don't know if he ever plays it much, but he did this time. And he talked about his early days coming down from Seattle and playing Satyricon, which was a big-time club in the old days, a long time ago. It makes you realize how old he's getting. But he just keeps going.
In a city that hands out snorting kits to its occupants, I don't want to hear people complain about an F-bomb being thrown out once in a while.
Well, I know. And you hear it on the streets now. I mean, it's just become usual. I mean, nobody seems to bat an eyelash about it now.
How are the Pretenders?
Very good. And that woman is incredible. I mean, she's incredible. Chrissy Hines, is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. 72 years old. And Nancy listened to the first 3 songs and said, that woman is a badass. And she is. And she's also considered somebody, I've done some research, she's not considered a nice person. She's tough to work for. She's tough to get along with. But, boy, when she gets out on the stage, man, it's all business. She didn't mess around. She delivers. She was really good.
I'm a big fan of hers.
Are you?
Big fan, yeah. I like her. I like her voice. Yeah. And she's made a lot of good music over the years, which is cool. So a good experience then.
Yeah, it was. All in all, a good experience. One thing I guess I should mention is we're leaving. And you know, I get a set list. So we're leaving. You know, we leave like a song or two early because we can play it in the car on the way home anyway, and I beat all that traffic. But as we're crossing the street, we cross Burnside, get to the other side on 18th, and there's some shrubbery there. There was somebody face down in the shrubbery, just not moving. And, we called 911. I mean, Nancy's a doctor. She's got a responsibility there. And I think she still felt guilty. She didn't tend to this person. But I think it was just a normal Portland drunk or OD or whatever. I don't know. And I just mentioned it. We did call 911, and there were police nearby. They got there quickly. So I don't think it was anything too major. I hope it wasn't. But a scene that you see on the streets of Portland more than a few times.
Just a typical Friday night in the city of Portland.
Night. Well, in that part of town, too. I mean, I just finished a survey from Providence Park asking me about the experience, and they said, did you feel safe? And out of 1 in 10, I gave it like a 3 or a 4 because of the people just hanging around on the street outside who looked like they were looking for trouble, and I might have trouble written all over me. I have no idea in their eyes. But it just, no, I didn't totally feel safe till I got once I got in the arena, in the stadium, I was fine. But, I mean.
But a good show. You enjoyed yourself.
The show itself we both really enjoyed it. Yeah.
That's good. Okay, so let's recap here. You went through the proper channels before you executed the purchase of the tickets.
People complained about the cost. I got 2 tickets, $79 a piece.
Okay.
And they were good seats. They said limited view. We could see Dave Grohl perfectly the whole show.
All right, don't sidetrack me here. So
Sorry.
we talked about this beforehand. You considered buying the tickets like old Dwight would do, where you buy the tickets and try to just keep that under the rug without the wife finding out. You did not do that. You approached her first. You discussed it. She's like, we should do that. And then, boom, you get the tickets. You end up having a great night. So, see, you did it the right way, and you still won.
Yes.
Good work.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. And
no guilt, no shame.
Right.
The wife's on board with it. What else could you possibly want?
Well, the best part was Nancy had a heck of a good time because she's also into people watching. And that's very interesting at a concert of that nature where the age groups are 10-year-olds up to 80-year-olds. I mean, he appeals to all ages. People brought their kids, which I was quite surprised about.
All right, good. I'm glad you had a good time, Godfather. Very nice.
I want to hear about your weekend, though. You had the experience of Portland Airport.
I did, but we don't have time. We got to get to Bo Nix. We have more important things to discuss. The
Well,
big question is...
We'll get it later.
No, we're going to focus on Bo Nix, all right? No one cares about PDX.
It's all Bo Nix all the time.
I don't care about PDX.
Okay.
No one cares about my trip to Vegas or my excellent golf round on Saturday. It doesn't matter. But Bo Nix does.
Oh, okay.
All right, Bo Nix, here's the question, and I want to know from all of you, because I've heard from all of you over the last 24 hours. What can you take from preseason action? When it goes bad, everyone's like, it doesn't matter, it's preseason. But for some reason, when it goes good, we can now make proclamations that Bo Nix is the next John Elway or Peyton Manning. So which is it? We'll talk about it next. Yeah, the big boss, Marshall, just walked in studio, and I was doing math in my head, focused on my computer. I look over, and I got Marshall staring right at me. Had no idea he was in the room.
I saw him, and I started to say something, and he goes, shh. He didn't want you to know that he was there.
I did. I looked over. I was like, hey, what are you doing here? And the reason why I was doing math, Sean and Sandy chimed in. He said, are you guys going to talk about this important series between the Dodgers and Mariners for both teams, brother? And I'm like, no games the Mariners play right now are important because they stink. They're 12-15 since the All-Star break.
They're making their late season surge.
And this latest stretch of baseball they put together is just absolutely awful. And they somehow were able to get out of Pittsburgh with a win. But, Godfather, they're terrible, and they kick off a 3-game set in L.A. against the Dodgers tonight. I don't have a lot of hope for the Mariners. They're 4 games back of the Astros now after just a couple of months ago being up 10 games in division. Now they're 4 games back. Their offense can't score. Their pitching is really good, but it doesn't matter because they can't score consistently. I don't know what to say. It's a mess. I mean, what's your read on that situation? What can you do to revive a group or get them going in a situation like this?
Look, their last move, they got one move left, and that's to fire the manager. I honestly think because you can't make any significant player moves at this point. They've tried minor league guys, and they haven't contributed. They've had to send them back. Look, I think if they fire the manager, maybe they get a little bump out of that. That's all I can think of. If you got a fiery guy you can bring in that might get somebody playing a little harder, concentrating a little more, somebody that believes in them, maybe. But that's about it. What are you going to do with these guys?
But that would be an extreme move to fire a manager at this stage of the season, wouldn't
absolutely. Nobody does that. But you ask me what they got left, what can they do? That's about it. They are what they are. At this point of the season, if you got that many guys hitting 220 or whatever it is, they're not going to change.
They've dropped 5 of their last 6. 5 of 6 in the most important stretch of their season. It's brutal.
Yeah.
Now, for the Dodgers, it's very simple. They just got to get healthy. And then Freddie Freeman against the Cardinals the other night messed up a finger, so he's day-to-day. They just can't get all their guys on the field together at the same time. That's the problem.
And their bullpen is betraying them a little bit. They need some help late in games. That's been a staple for them. But they've burned their minor league system up to the point where there's not much left to call up to help. And I thought they'd do something at the trade deadline to bolster their bullpen a little bit, but they really didn't get that done.
All right, let's talk Bo Nix. The Broncos defeated the Packers last night 27-2, but the big story was Bo Nix, who once again was spot on. 8 of 9, threw a touchdown, nearly 100 yards in the game, and was highly productive in the time that he was on the field. He got the start last night, and he was in true command. I don't know what to call it. I just know that when he's on the field, he seems to have a certain patience and peace about everything that's going on. An understanding of the offense, getting to the line of scrimmage, getting the play call, getting the guys in the right position. And then last night I liked it because we saw him deliver a variety of different footballs, firing it over the middle. We saw him, throw a deep in cut down the field to Cortland Sutton. We saw him on the rollout, able to complete to Tim Patrick for a touchdown. And even on the play that got called back, that was a touchdown where he was across the line of scrimmage, showing some mobility and also throwing on the run, which is impressive. So I think Bo, for me, showing better arm strength than what the majority of scouts thought he had coming out of Oregon. And then also the underrated athleticism that he has, being able to move and make plays on the run. And then obviously, Sean Payton having a quarterback that can absorb his ridiculous playbook and execute the offense in timing or on time the way he wants it. That's what I see. What was your takeaway from what you saw against Green Bay from Bo?
Well, I was impressed, obviously. I mean, he made all the throws you want him to make, really. I was just impressed, really, with Sean Payton's offense and the comfort level that Bo Nix seems to have with it. Sean Payton works on the sidelines with a play sheet that looks like one of those placemats at Denny's. It's just huge. He's holding this thing. Most guys have like a 8.5 by 11 sheet, looks like a piece of notebook paper or something. But this one's big. And it's because he's got a ton of plays. And when he calls a play, you can read his lips. Man, that thing, that play he's calling is about 3 sentences long, it looks like. It's long. Here's Bo Nix in his first year looking like a 5-year veteran, taking that play in his helmet and then reading it back to his teammates in the huddle and then going up to the line of scrimmage and executing it. Now, the problem is I love his comfort level. He looks great. But he's not facing the kind of pressure he's going to face when the season starts. And
I
that's
agree.
I just
Well, we'll get to that in just a moment.
Okay.
We'll focus on that in just a moment. Here's Bo Nix discussing his performance last night and the team's performance.
Yeah, it felt really good. I thought we started off really well. Defense got a huge stop, flipped the field for us, and we were able to walk away with points. You'd like to get a touchdown in that situation, but then we were able to turn back around, go down and get a touchdown. So I thought we executed well. We stayed in front of the chains. Even though we got behind on that one, we were able to get a chunk play and get back in the red zone and get a first down. So that was really good. You like to see what those guys can do, and tonight they made plays, and you got Tim, Cortland, all those guys that were out there making plays and executing the play. So nothing that was crazy. I mean, we see it every day, but those guys just went out there and put it on film.
Well, he's already a vet from the standpoint that he says a lot without saying anything.
Oh, he knows quarterback speak real well.
Yes, he does. He was also asked about that deep end cut to Sutton, and then also Tim Patrick getting him in the end zone after Patrick has suffered back-to-back injuries where he's been out the entire year, an ACL and also an Achilles. Here's thoughts on that.
Yeah, so that was a big, like I said, that was a big second and long, got us a first down after the penalty. So that was a big explosive play, a good chunk play to get us in the red zone. And then we did a good job of just, finding Tim there in the end zone. Happy for him. Obviously, he's been through a lot. It's not easy to overcome the things that he has, and then to get out there and be able to contribute like he did tonight was just really cool to see. And he's a gamer. He does a really good job when his number's called, and it was good to see him in the end zone.
All right. I wonder, Godfather, with the things you mentioned in terms of the smarts and being able to handle the playbook that Sean Payton puts out there, the way he sounds at the podium, this is probably what you get from a quarterback that's on the older age, right? 24 years old, 61 starts in college. So this is not his first rodeo. He's played in big games. He's older, more mature than some of the guys who come in at 21 years of age, who have less experience in terms of starts that he has. That's what I hear in Bo Nix when he communicates and just in the comfort level I see on the field.
Yeah, I think it's not only that, though. The guy is really smart. He's academic All-American. He's obviously got a high IQ. He's got something there. I don't know if he's got a photographic memory or what, but he seems to have an ability, an affinity for remembering playbooks and plays. Even though every year he's had a different offensive coordinator, he's able to shift every year and remember new terminology, new plays, all that stuff. It's amazing to me.
5 years in college, 5 different offensive coordinators. Gosh. That's hard for anybody.
Yeah.
And I agree, Bo is super sharp, and that's important. But there's been a lot of guys who have the brains to play quarterback, but then they can't physically make things happen when they're on the field. Brian Griese was like that. We've seen a number of quarterbacks like that in the NFL who are really smart and understand the offense. They just can't make the plays. Bo appears to have the physical attributes necessary to make the throws as well, which is important.
Yeah.
Here's Peyton talking about Bo, his performance, and apparently he's really happy with the entire quarterback room.
Hey, Sean, has Bo Nix done enough to win the starting quarterback job in your view?
Well, listen, he's played well. I'm not announcing any starting quarterback tonight, or I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, of course not.
When the time comes. But I thought he played well. The one penalty, which was, right on the line, it was tough. It was good. It was a pretty heads-up play. He did a good job at the line of scrimmage with some checks. You feel his comfort level as he continues to get used to the calls coming in, and you kind of feel the poise when he's playing, and the other two the same way. I said this last week. I like the room, so their job is to lead their offense down the field and score points, and they all had touchdown drives, but I thought he was sharp. Obviously, I think he was 8 for 9, and he does a good job of distributing the football, understanding the zones, man-to-man, and what coverage concepts we're getting. But overall, I was pleased.
When you listen to Sean Payton, he makes it sound like Bo Nix, Jared Stidham, and Zach Wilson are all the same. He loves his room. Well, what's up with the charade here with Peyton right now? It's total nonsense.
I don't know if he's just messing with the media. Do you think he's just one of those guys that likes to kind of mess with the media a little bit?
Oh, there's no question about it. And then D-Mac, who works in Denver, followed up with this question. Take a listen to this.
Coach, you told Kay Adams the band still has to play a couple more times, using that metaphor, knowing it's not done yet. How's the band sounding? How are things progressing?
Listen, this is all right. Putting the cap on the bow questions right here. The band sounds pretty good. I'm not dancing. Listen, there are a lot of things we did well as a team. All right, I'm not announcing a starter, and I told you I'll get with you when we do.
Thanks, Coach. Really appreciate that excitement level there. I think you're right. I think he's feeling himself a little bit right now because he was criticized with his handling of Russ. Some people thought he was sabotaging Russ purposely to get him out of town. And then, if you recall, going back to the draft, there were people who thought he was insane to draft Bo that high in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
So I think Sean Payton is taking a bit of a victory lap with both middle fingers extended to say, hey, you all thought I was an idiot for drafting this guy, and now he looks pretty darn good, doesn't he? I also think that Sean Payton, he isn't saying who the quarterback is right now because that's what everyone wants. And he's just being contrarian to that, too. I think that's possible. And I think head coaches sometimes will hold on to information or they won't release it publicly, even though everyone in his crew knows what's going to happen because he wants to see if there's a leak, right? He wants to see if he can trust his assistant coaches and the staff around him to make sure that they're not going to let out the news that Bo Nix is going to be named the starter here in a couple of days or whatever. Or maybe he knows, we all know Bo Nix is going to be the starter. Maybe he doesn't want to release it yet because he's planning on playing these guys out there in the final preseason game because he wants to get them more reps and he wants them to remain focused and go out there and play their best for however many snaps they're going to get in the final preseason game against Arizona. That's a possibility, too.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Chad. Normally, if you're going to start the guy in the opening game, he wouldn't play a lot or at all in the final preseason game. What do you expect in that regard from Bo?
Well, I don't really have a feel one way or the other. He's a rookie with no experience. So if you wanted to go out there and get him some more run, I would definitely be open to that. Part of the reason why with Bo, he gets rid of the football quick. He makes good decisions. He's not going to put himself in harm's way. So if you wanted to get him out there for a couple of series to continue to get some more experience with the guys on the field, I think that would be fine. He's been very productive. I think 7 drives so far in the preseason against Indy and Green Bay. 3 touchdowns, 3 field goals, and 1 drive ended because the tight end fumbled the football after he completed the pass. So he's been very productive. But for rookies, if you wanted to play them more in the final preseason game, I wouldn't have an objection to that. The final preseason game for certain guys, like, Aaron Rodgers or one of the Patrick Mahomes, take your pick, Joe Burrow, certain guys you don't need to put out there on the field. But for Bo, if he's going to be starting in Seattle week 1, more reps is probably not a bad thing if you decide to take that route.
But if you did that, wouldn't you want him starting with ones? You'd want to play the ones with him.
Yeah.
Just to make sure he gets protection, make sure he gets the benefit of the starting receivers.
Yeah,
and the
so
running
if he
backs.
took that route, he would put more ones out there, not just Bo, to get everyone a feel for one another. And maybe that's a possibility. But I tend to lean to the fact that he's just an a-hole because he can be. And he's a guy that's very confident and cocky.
Yeah,
and he wants his victory lap, and he's just going to release it when he wants to release it. And that's fine. But it's a charade because we all know that Bo Nix is the best quarterback by far. It's not even close. He's dominated the competition. And even though I don't think it was a competition, I think it was a situation where Bo was going to be the guy unless he didn't go out there and showcase that he was capable of being the starting quarterback. But he has, and therefore he's going to be the guy, as he should be. He dominated the Packers ones in the joint practice before the end of the week. He played well against Indy, and each week he's gotten better, and he's created an even further gap between he and Stidham and Wilson. He's done everything you want. But my question would be this, Godfather. Against Indy, he was playing against a lot of backups. Mm-hmm. Against Green Bay, they didn't play any of their starters.
On either side of the ball, I guess.
They set everyone. You would think, based on my phone and the people that have been reaching out to me over the last 24 hours, that John Elway has been reborn because people are excited. And I get it because since Peyton Manning, the quarterback situation in Denver has been hot trash. Bo Nix has been great, and he's everything you want in terms of a quarterback leading your franchise because he's an awesome dude and he's been making plays. I just want to be a little more reserved in my reaction because preseason football is preseason football in my mind. And I know that regular season football, when he takes the field in Seattle and he's got the 12s screaming their heads off, going crazy, that's going to be a different environment for Bo, and I want to see how he handles that. Now, Bo could go out and throw 4 picks and look awful in game 1. I'm not going to overreact to that either because it's his first start in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I just don't know how much can you take from what you've seen and be able to say that he is the guy. The Broncos have found their guy. Or do we need more time? I don't know how you take the preseason and what you see from it.
Well, I think you're taking a very mature, experienced look at the situation. You've been down this road before. You know the hazards of jumping on the bandwagon of some guy who hasn't really, in the minds, I think, of veteran NBA or NFL people, he hasn't done anything yet.
No.
You know, really. I mean, you want to see this same thing happen when the games count.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be this good either. You just have to see him have a command of the situation. Things are going to go wrong. You're going to have to see him bounce back from that, how he reacts to that. He's going to get sacked. He's going to throw a pick. All those things are because they happen to every quarterback.
It's inevitable.
Going to happen to him. It probably happened more to him than it does. I mean, we talked endlessly about how bad it was for Peyton Manning in his rookie season. He talks about it all the time. It isn't going to be roses and raindrops, you know? It's going to be a little tougher than that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it. Don't get me wrong. I was popping Rod last night watching the game. I mean, truly excited because he looks the part.
You couldn't ask for anything more, right?
No. You draft him, and then he comes out from day one up until now. He has exceeded all expectation. He's everything you want in a rookie quarterback. But I also know I've watched enough football to know that for some reason when the games turn real, it's a lot harder out there. When you're going up against the ones and you're going up against teams that are trying to blitz you and disguising what they're doing.
Yeah.
Everything's pretty vanilla in the preseason. So I'm not trying to rain on my own parade here. I'm being cautiously optimistic. I like what I see. I love what I see, but it's preseason.
Right. The funny part about him is, man, you talk about a guy who looks the part. He looks the part on the field. He looks the part off the field with his helmet on. You talk about a guy who looks like he was born to play quarterback. The good looks, all that stuff, the way he speaks. Man, he's got it all.
Yeah, and don't you want that from your leader?
Absolutely.
Like, he's obsessed with football. Like, that's what I want from my quarterback. I want him obsessed with the playbook, obsessed with his teammates, obsessed with thinking about different plays. Like, that's the only thing he thinks about. He's a football junkie. That's a very good thing. That leads to success. I like that. I don't need a Johnny Manziel type that's worried about chasing tail and getting hammered. You know, I want guys who just want to play football and are obsessed with the playbook. Bo Nix probably gets off on reading Sean Payton's playbook, and that's weird, but that's good as a starting quarterback.
I go back to what an old-time scout told me one time, football scout, and he said this. He said, now, I'm serious about this. There are a lot of scouts who look at quarterbacks and say, yeah, I've never seen an ugly quarterback who's any good. And he's not ugly. This man is a handsome guy, you know? He looks like quarterbacks are supposed to look. Got the hair. He's got chiseled features. He's your guy.
That's what I want to know. Who is the ugliest successful QB in NFL history?
Well, some people are going to say your guy because he's got those horse teeth. But
you talking about John Elway?
Yeah.
Yeah, but aside from the big teeth, the precious enamel that he carried,
he's a good-looking guy.
He's a good-looking dude. Beautiful blonde hair, beautiful eyes.
Mm-hmm.
He's a beautiful man. John Elway's a beautiful man. Peyton Manning is a good-looking dude. Tom Brady's a sexy man. Dan Marino.
Russell Wilson, very handsome guy.
Very handsome guy.
Yeah.
Very weird on social media, but very handsome.
Yeah, well.
Joe Montana was handsome. Steve Young.
You go back and start thinking about that, it's kind of true.
Who was the Penn State coach? Was that James Franklin that said he hires assistants based on how hot their wife is? Because he knows that if they pull in the nice spouse that they can recruit well?
That's what the baseball scouts will tell you. Let me see his girlfriend. I'll tell you how much confidence he has. I don't know.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. If you've got thoughts on Bo, you can jump on board 503-248-0620. When we come back, is Patrick Mahomes good looking?
Oh, I don't know.
He sounds wacko with his Muppet voice.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he good looking? He might be ugly. He's a darn good quarterback, though. I think he might be kind of ugly. Let me think about that during the break. We're going to hear from Patrick Mahomes, who did what he predicted or promised Peyton and his brother, and then also Travis Kelce making fun of him. That's up next. All right, my friends, you make sure you go to the website, ripcityradio.com. You can enter to win Take Me Up to the Ball Game, and it's going to give you a chance to go up with a family member or friend to catch a weekend of Mariners baseball for their homestand September 13th through the 15th against the Texas Rangers at T-Mobile Park. The prize package includes 2 tickets to the games on September 13th, 14th, and 15th, and also a 2-night stay at the fabulous Hotel 5, a Stay Pineapple hotel with out-of-the-ordinary hotels and extraordinary locations. I've stayed there on multiple occasions with my kids. It's awesome. And just go to the website right now. You can enter for a chance to win. Dwight and I will announce the winner coming up on Monday, a week from today on August 26th. Take Me Up to the Ball Game, brought to you by the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, iHeart, Portland, and, of course, your Seattle Mariners. And you can go to their website for all of your ticket needs. But it's going to be awesome. Great weekend of baseball. And that time of year, mid-September, perfect temperatures usually at the ballpark too, Godfather.
Yeah, well, when you go up there, you're not going to get rained on. That's a good thing. And you know what? Going up to Seattle for a weekend is fun. Whether the team is winning or not. So much to do up there. It's a lot of fun going to games in that ballpark. People are going to have a great weekend to win that.
And for any tickets that you would like to purchase for upcoming home games, just simply go to MLB.com/Mariners for all of your ticket needs. All right, let's dive into the Kansas City Chiefs for just a moment. We'll start out with this. This is from last year, Monday Night Football on the Manning cast, where Eli and Peyton were talking to Patrick about, hey, we need to see you showcase your behind-the-back skills. Take a listen to this, Godfather.
Welcome back, Patrick. Eli and I have talked about how you're a different quarterback than we were, mainly because you can throw accurate behind-the-back passes. That's why we saw the video. Now, listen, you've said for sure it's going to happen in a game. What are we waiting for? I mean, like a specific play call, a moment of desperation in the pocket? What's the deal?
We've actually had a couple of them planned for the games, but just within the flow of the game, it just didn't happen. We've been working on it. It's taken a little bit. I have to get the confidence up. But if I don't do it before the end of my career, I don't think my dad's going to let me live it down. So I'm not at all people. So I'm for sure going to get it done at some point.
All right, there you go. Patrick Mahomes saying he would get it done at some point, and we saw it this weekend in the preseason game against Detroit where he did a behind-the-back pass to Travis Kelce. Now, apparently, he did it out of frustration because the tight end ran the wrong route. Is that true, Godfather?
Well, that's the story that Mahomes tells. Now, I don't know. He might just be, he seems like the kind of guy who might load the media up with a little fiction once in a while just for fun, just if he can turn it around on Kelce, his buddy.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, let's take a listen to Kelce on the report that maybe he ran the wrong route.
It wasn't a play. No, it was a play. It was a first down. He's got the voice thing. And so he kind of mumbled out the play. I couldn't hear it. I was walking up to the line. I was like trying to decipher what he was saying. Before I knew it, he snapped the ball. Don't let Pat trick you guys into me doing the wrong thing.
See, I'm torn here, Godfather, because I do know that a tight end could easily run the wrong route.
Yeah.
Kelce's really good, but sometimes tight ends might be focused on other things.
Well, especially if you can't understand the mumbling of your quarterback, which I could get. I think you would have trouble with that voice once in a while.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I do believe, Patrick, that Kelce could run the wrong route, but I also believe Kelce could be telling the truth about the voice of Patrick Mahomes. I never understand what that guy's saying when he's talking. Do you?
No.
And by the way, I went back and looked at pictures of Patrick Mahomes. He's not a bad-looking dude. He's a handsome quarterback.
Yeah.
He's got the wacko voice, but he is very handsome. There's no question about it. Yeah, I guess I probably side with Kelsey.
Right.
I don't know how you can understand a word that guy says. But, hey, when you're back-to-back champs, you've got the best quarterback on the planet, you got Andy Reid, you can throw behind-the-back passes and get away with it.
I admire Andy Reid a lot. You know that. And part of the reason I do, he gives this guy license to do whatever he wants.
I think you have to.
Well, yeah, he trusts him enough and knows how creative he is, and it's worked out great, whether it's a left-handed pass or behind the back or looking one way and throwing another way. He's got all that stuff in his bag. Why not let him use it?
That first year where he was the full-time starter, I went to that game, Monday night game in Denver against the Broncos, and Denver was up by 13, 23-10 going into the fourth quarter. And I saw Mahomes. He led them back. The Chiefs won the game, but he threw a left-handed pass on third down to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to get sacked, and all of a sudden he's like, floop. He just flipped it out with the left hand. I was like, what's that? And that's where I was like, oh, this guy's like Black John Elway. This is a problem. You know, that's how good he is. He's unbelievable.
Yeah, he is.
No other quarterback can get away with that, but Patrick Mahomes can.
Well, the Mannings talked about not being able to do it. I think they probably could have done it, but they never played for any coach who would say, yeah, go ahead and throw it behind your back if you want.
Can you imagine Tony Dungy having a conversation with Peyton after a left-handed toss?
Right.
Behind the back? Like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. We talked about the Broncos and Bo Nix. There are a couple of teams with quarterback concerns, the Raiders being at the top of that list. We'll get to that next here on the Rip City Drive. All right, 4 o'clock chat here. Unfortunately, the Mariners are going to be in action tonight. They open up a 3-game set in L.A. against the Dodgers. Brian Wu will get the call for Seattle. That first pitch at 7:10. Seattle 12-15 since the All-Star break. They're 4 games behind the Astros in the AL West. Football season is back. The Kickoff Classic Saturday morning at 9 on ESPN. Number 10, Florida State will meet Georgia Tech. Seminoles favored by 10. From the NFL, Antonio Pierce has named Gardner Minshew the Raiders' starting quarterback for the 2024 season, and the Commanders have named Jaden Daniels their starting quarterback. In Denver, Sean Payton is yet to name a starter after Bo Nix's 8 of 9 performance with a touchdown last night against Green Bay. And Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy has told his players to have their agents stop calling and trying to negotiate for more money with the portal being closed. Coming up at 4:20, we'll head to Denver and talk to Brandon Cristal for a Bo Nix update, and Brian O, Fox Sports Radio at 5:20. All right, we have a couple of leftovers for you. Do you like leftovers?
I'm not necessarily a fan, other than maybe you got some brisket in the refrigerator. I'll go for that. Yeah, let's heat that up. Have it.
Okay, a little known secret about me: I don't do leftovers. I don't like
really?
leftover food. I like it fresh and hot, but once it gets put in the fridge, I just don't have time for that.
Yeah,
it's not my thing. But I know a lot of people, like my mom and dad, they're all about the leftovers.
Yeah. Some people don't throw anything away. Yeah.
I don't like leftovers, and I don't like potlucks. I don't like food coming from somebody else's home if I don't know where their fingers have been. No offense to anyone out there that likes potlucks.
Yeah, I got that. Well, I was just chuckling at the idea that once again, we're Rip City Liquidators. Here we are.
We are, and we've got everything you could possibly want. We have 2 pairs of tickets for the A Barbecue Fest coming up this weekend, the 24th and 25th on the rooftop at A. It's going to be awesome. You can get tickets at ALNAresort.com, but we have 2 pairs right now. So we'll take the first 2 callers through. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. I want to hear from a barbecue fan. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620. First 2 callers through will get a pair of tickets for the A Barbecue Fest. Call now, 503-248-0620. Scapoose! React to us.
Sure would.
503-248-0620 is your telephone number. If you would like a pair of tickets for the A Barbecue Fest, August 24th and 25th, on the rooftop at A Resort, call now, 503-248-0620. Fire away right now, and you get a pair of tickets for the A Barbecue Fest. I watched that, and I made a mistake on Saturday. I was down in Vegas with my buddy Steve, who was feeling much better after a variety of different issues. He had the kidney stone, and he showed it to me, by the way.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He collected it, and then he had it in a little bag. And he goes, "This is what came out of me." And I was like, I don't need to see that, man. That caught me off guard, bro. That was scary. So, and it was jagged, and it's not something I want to experience. Let's just put it that way. But he recovered from that. He recovered from the COVID experience, so he's back to 100%, so it was great to see him.
Good.
But we sat down and had dinner on Saturday and decided to watch some preseason football. Cowboys and Raiders from Allegiant Stadium down there in Vegas.
How'd you enjoy that game, Chad?
It was god-awful.
Yes.
And it was a quarterback duel between Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. And I thought, okay, this is where Gardner Minshew is going to come out. He got the start, and he's going to leave no doubt that he should be the starter.
Yeah.
And yet, every time he was on the field, he left nothing but doubt about whether or not he should be the starter. And he left the field, and I thought, man, that's got to be frustrating. He didn't produce anything. He had one big throw, but the rest was just, And then O'Connell came in, and you thought, okay, this is his big chance to seize the opportunity and grab the job. And he stunk to high heaven and threw a pick 6.
Yes, a bad one.
And I got to thinking about the coaches. I'm like, can you imagine the coaches? They're looking for as much data and information that they can possibly get to have the opportunity to sit down as a staff and make the best decision for the football team. And yet they come out of that game and they got nothing.
Yeah.
What a disaster that was, Godfather. And then I was happy because then I realized the Raiders don't have a viable option at quarterback. Whether it's Minshew or O'Connell, neither one of them are long-term solutions. And then I was just happy to be a Bronco fan because at least they have hope in Bo Nix that he might be the guy.
Yeah, I don't understand why in that situation, take somebody, take a quarterback. And if you go that way in the second or third round, you at least have maybe the guy will turn out. You at least have hope.
Yeah.
Those two guys they have now, there's no hope. That's a no-hoper.
Here's Raiders head coach Antonio Pierce after the game on Saturday.
I mean, everything. I mean, you can't take one, you can't take the good and not take the bad, right? So wish it ended well for both gentlemen, right? And it just didn't. And we'll look at it, we'll evaluate. They both had opportunities. Aiden had 20 attempts and Minshew had 21. So about as balanced and as we can get it, and we'll look at it. Obviously, you saw what our plan was tonight, throw the ball around, let these guys showcase what they can do, and we'll talk about it.
That's a classic right there. We were hoping for better, but it just didn't come together. Didn't happen for us.
Oh, and he's trying to somehow justify it. It was a mess.
All right, so Pierce came out today, and he named his starter.
Gardner Minshew's going to be the starting quarterback the 2024 season. Myself, Telesco, and Luke Getsy discussed it this morning. A lot of things went into it. It wasn't based off of last night. There's a lot of factors. So we feel like Gardner gives us the best opportunity to get off to a fast start, and that's what we're going with. We support him. Our team's behind it. Our staff's behind it. Our organization's behind it.
Don't get me wrong. I think I'm just like you. I like Gardner Minshew. He's a cool dude.
He's very likable. Yep.
I want him to have as much success as possible, but the reality is he's just a backup quarterback in the NFL. He's not a viable starter. He's not a long-term solution, and neither is Aiden O'Connell. And you're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and now Bo Nix.
Yeah.
And you got Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Like, that's not a good place to be in the NFL, Godfather, because I think more so today than any other point in time in my life that I've been watching the NFL, the quarterback play is more important now than ever because of everything they're asking these guys to do to move the football.
Yeah, and there's such an emphasis on offense now anyway. You have to be able to take advantage of the rules. The rules favor teams that can throw the ball, teams that move fast. You can't do anything with receivers anymore down the field. You got to let them run pretty much. I mean, if you don't have quarterbacks who can take advantage of all that stuff, you just can't keep up. Can't score enough to win.
It's unfortunate for them because you have guys like Max Crosby out there who are so unbelievable, running around with unlimited motor, and you're going to have issues scoring because you don't have quarterback play. That's just the reality of it. And they're going to regret not drafting a quarterback. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all.
Move up. I mean, they're close enough. There were rumors even, I think, that they were going to move up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Maybe they would have taken Penix. That's possible. Maybe they were surprised
That
when
was
Atlanta
the name.
went dum-dum.
Wasn't that the name that was associated with them the most?
Yeah. That would have been an Al Davis-type pick. Big, strong quarterback that can whip it downfield.
Yep.
Use the vertical passing game. But, yeah, that was my takeaway. Like, wow, neither guy's the answer. That's just a bad place to be in the NFL. And I know because the Broncos have been in that position ever since Peyton Manning retired. Not drafting the right quarterback, drafting the wrong quarterback, picking up some dude off the scrap heave, hoping that they're the solution, and that's not the right way to go about it. It's just ugly. So there you go. What a mess. What a mess. But I'm happy about it because Raider fans are delusional and myopic. And Raider Mike calls in all the time. He's like, oh, dude, we got the answer, man. We got Max Crosby. Gardner Minshew. Like, if you're trying to sell me on Gardner Minshew, I know you're delusional. He's not going to take you anywhere. You're not going to win playoff games.
Well, I was trying
You're not going to make the playoffs.
What's the question that Gardner Minshew is the answer to? I haven't figured that out yet.
No, he's just, some guys are what they are. He's a backup quarterback. That's all. And then I saw some of the Pittsburgh preseason action over the weekend. Everyone was cracking on Russell Wilson for his struggles. He got sacked 3 times, didn't produce any points. I think he was 8 of 10, but it was dink and dunk. But then I saw Justin Fields, and I'm like, he was awful.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Russ is going to get the nod there just because Pittsburgh's still trying to play a pretty conservative game. They don't want a guy who's going to turn it over. And I think Fields is that guy who's a turnover guy. And so they'll play it safe with Russ.
Their offense looks terrible. I'm just not a fan. You know what I'm not a fan of? Defensive head coaches just they all seem to struggle with the offensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a lot of these rookie quarterbacks that are coming in now with defensive coaches. There's a different vibe on the sideline with the defensive head coach. They approach the game differently. They think differently. You know, compared to a guy like Sean Payton, it's just a different approach. They're all conservative by nature.
So many of those guys hate quarterbacks anyway.
Yeah.
I've seen. How about Ryan? Remember Rex Ryan? Holy cow, he hated quarterbacks, even his own.
He hated Kevin Gilbride and the run and shoot offense. Hated it.
He did.
Remember he tried to fight him on the sideline.
Yeah, he did.
He was ticked off that the offense wasn't producing and his defense was out there balling out. So, I mean, that's pretty crazy. But, I mean, that's the mess. I mean, it's a mess. If I was a quarterback, that's why Bo Nix, a lot of times it's fit and situation, right? At least Bo Nix is in a spot where he is working with a great offensive mind.
Yeah, guru. There's no doubt.
So at least you know your coach is going to put you in the right position. So when it's all said and done, if Bo Nix doesn't have success, it's on him. I mean, Sean Payton's going to give him everything he's got.
Yeah.
Because it's in his best interest for him to succeed. But for some of these other guys that have the defensive head coach, I just wonder about development. Do these guys know how to develop? And when I look at Pittsburgh's offense right now, offensive line looks terrible.
Oh, real bad. Real bad.
They just look like a team that's going to lean on their defense, try to run the football a little bit, force a couple of turnovers, and you just can't win like that consistently in the NFL. Because at some point, your quarterback's got to be able to drop back and move the chains through the air. And the Raiders are going to have issues with that, as are the Steelers.
Yeah.
But Fields, ugh.
Well, I don't think he can play in the pocket, can he? Can he play in the pocket?
Well, can Russ play in the pocket?
Well, I'll tell you, the thing about Russ is he's willing to take a sack or throw the ball away. He doesn't want to throw picks. He's pretty careful now, I think. And to his detriment, I think in some cases, he's not willing to throw a 50-50 ball down the field as much as he used to.
I mean, I respect Mike Tomlin. He's a great leader. His players respect him. He brings toughness, and I think he's a good fit and has been for the Steelers and, their culture and what they want to accomplish. But, he's got to figure things out on the offensive side of the ball. Because that division, if you look around, with Joe Burrow, maybe they feel like they're going to be okay because Cleveland's a question mark with their quarterback play. Joe Burrow is a question mark, not just for you, but health-wise it could be an issue.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ravens, we know they're going to be good, but are they going to be as good as last year? Maybe Mike Tomlin's like, dude, if we just don't turn it over and play good defense, we're going to have a chance to contend the division. I don't know.
I wouldn't buy a season ticket to watch that.
What about the Raiders? Is it possible? Is it possible that Denver could finish second in the AFC West with Bo Nix? Is that possible?
I would say it's possible, particularly depending on Herbert. And I know he's got the boot off that foot now, but if that's something that comes back to him, and those kind of things tend to, I don't know about the Chargers.
All right, when is Sean Payton going to announce Bo Nix as starter in Denver? We're going to head there next and talk with Brandon Cristal. And then Brian O will join us at 5:20. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad.
The Rip City Drive presents the Bo Nix Update.
I think what we're going to see, Bo starting out in phase 1, Steady in phase 2, and then Zach in phase 3.
Here on 620 Rip City Radio.
All right, joining us once again from 850 KOA. That's our good friend Brandon Cristal, who is back. Brandon, you got to answer a question for us. Why is Sean Payton waiting to name Bo Nix the starter? What's going on there?
I think there's a couple of things. And so I imagine you guys at some point played the Kay Adams chat that Sean and she had last week. Right. Well, so yesterday on our pregame show, we replayed it because I'd heard someone else in town playing it maybe on Friday. And if you listen to it, you get caught up in Kay's playfulness, and I appreciate her being like, come on, Sean, what are we doing here? Because and sometimes we can be critical of national media. We'll swoop in, and sometimes they just get access we don't normally get or get more time or whatever. But they can ask a question that might even be offensive, or borderline, aggravating, and they're not around till they see him at the Super Bowl or the Combine or whatever it may be. This wasn't that. This was her just saying, come on, Sean, what the hell are we doing here? When the rest of us like, are you ready to name a starter? When are you going to name a starter, right? So we just keep asking kind of that same question. She was more playful about it. So he gets into, look, the band's still playing. We've got a couple songs left. That part is just being kind of playful. Then the middle part where he's talking about we also have to pick a starting middle linebacker opposite of Alex Singleton. We have to pick a starting corner between Riley Moss and Amari Mathis. Well, he's the one that's making these rules, so they're completely arbitrary. There's not an NFL rule that says you have to name all your starters by this date or that date. Obviously, they need a depth chart for week 1. But that was just kind of a BS answer. But at the very end, that was the most telling thing. Was, hey, this is something we talked about in the spring when the Bears named Caleb the starter. That's just not something we were going to do here. And Sean Payton, even though he does have plenty of new school tendencies people don't necessarily understand or think about, he has a lot of old school that we are kind of aware of, and this is one of those where no job is given to any rookie, even when we draft him very high, when they're our guy in a given year, and it's the guy that we're going to bang the table for, whatever it may be. And so he was just never going to do that. And then I also know from a source close to him that he thought the Bears not playing Caleb Williams in the Hall of Fame game was stupid too. So he's not a fan of the way the Bears are operating right now, in a number of directions. But they went ahead and named Caleb the starter. They just weren't going to do that. Nonetheless, he is going to be named starter. And I think the way it's going to happen, because you saw, I don't know if you guys saw the comments or played the comments, I'm sure, post game where he's like, look, I'm not naming a starter. I'm not. He said it like 3 different times. Because I think either today or tomorrow at the latest, he's going to either individually or all 3 of them in a room explain to the quarterbacks, hey, this is what we're doing. We're going with Bo. We're still working through number 2, Jarrett, between you and Zach, so we want you guys to battle Sunday against the Cardinals, and we're going to make our decisions and figure out what's best for the team. But I don't think he wanted to announce it in a press conference after a game. He doesn't need to do it on anyone else's timeline, and I think he wanted Bo to earn it, which is what he's done. And so I expect that by the time they hit the practice field Wednesday, it'll already be out there that the team has been informed, and by the time practice is over, he'll tell us, and then odds are Bo Nix will talk to us as well, since he won't talk. I bet he doesn't play Sunday. If he does, he doesn't play very much. So I think that's how the timeline's going to go. But it's Sean making Bo, quote-unquote, earn it, if you will.
Brennan, I'm curious, what conclusions do you think we can make on Bo Nix from the preseason?
That he's and Bill Belichick said it today on Pat McAfee's show, he's the most NFL ready because of the experience he has and kind of the way he was raised, right? We understand that plenty of other kids of coaches and kids of former players have come into the NFL or gotten to college and maybe weren't as far along, but he just happened to be the guy that understood what maybe his grandpa taught him some and certainly what his dad taught him and was ready to go at Auburn. I think there were a lot of factors there that affected his success, and I think he'd probably speak to that to some degree too. But at Oregon, we know they didn't win every game, but they won a lot of games, and he played really well because he's just kind of been groomed for this his whole life. 2 weeks ago when he met the media, I asked how long has he been a starting quarterback, when did he start playing? I kind of asked, two-parter, and he said, I started playing in 7th grade, and I was a starter that year. In 8th grade, he was the JV backup, and then the JV started the varsity backup, but by the middle of 8th grade, he was starting on the high school varsity team and has been the starter ever since. And so that's just kind of the way he sees the world, and he's ready to go. The question is, what kind of ceiling does he have, and what will he do when the defenses get more complex, when there's starters out there for the entire game or at all. He's barely seen any starters except Friday in practice with the Packers, and he fared really well against them in that joint workout here in Denver. So I think that he's ahead of the curve, but can he do some of the stuff Caleb Williams can do? We know he can't, right? Caleb Williams is in pretty rare company in terms of his combination of athleticism and ability to throw the football, but for what Sean Payton's asking, Bo Nix feels like the perfect fit. A lot of people said that well before he was drafted here, and then once he was drafted here, and I think we're just kind of seeing it play out.
We're talking with Brandon Cristal, 850 KOA in Denver. With the game last night, what impressed you the most with Bo's play?
Just his poise, the confidence, and the decision making. Right? He didn't. He's not setting the world on fire. He's 8 for 9, and if you complete whatever that is, 80+%, 90+% of your throws, you're going to be in good shape. But he didn't throw any balls that were going to get a guy hurt like he did in week 1, where Greg Dulcich, who's been more injured than not, you throw up a hospital ball and you think if this doesn't go great, both those guys could be done for a while. And thankfully, the defensive back for the Colts and Dulcich got up and were fine. But you didn't have any of that. And then I thought the touchdown pass that was called back was a creative play, and he knew he was across the line, had a pretty good idea. But to think, okay, last minute, this is still a better play. Not that he couldn't have run for the first down, but there's a wide open Javonte Williams. And then the throw to Cortland Sutton that set up the touchdown pass to Tim Patrick. And the Tim Patrick one is kind of the perfect spot. And there's plenty of defenders around, and he's rolling, and he can try to probably fight his way in there with his legs. But instead, quick little toss to Tim Patrick. And you say, okay, if we can see some more of that in the regular season, that'll be a good thing. And so I think that it's just he comes out there and he is confident and knows his plan and knows what Sean Payton wants. And I think that's the most important thing. Sean really wants to be a guy holding the PlayStation controller and drawing up the plays and then calling them the way he drew them up. And I think Bo's kind of the perfect QB for him, at least, of the available QBs that he was able to draft or that were available for him to put on his team.
You mentioned Sutton and Patrick. Do you think they'll be the two starters at wide receiver?
Well, two starters is a relative term, right? How often do we just see two starters? Certainly, Cortland feels like Bo's favorite target, and they connect a lot in practice. I understand Troy Franklin was once his favorite target, but the one thing we haven't seen is Bo throw the ball down the field. We haven't seen him throw the ball over 30 yards very much. Now, last week in practice, it might have even been on a 7-on-7. He throws a perfect strike on a go route from probably about 40-plus yards out that hits Troy Franklin right in the arms, and he just drops it. It's in the hands in the end zone. That would have been a touchdown. And Troy just hasn't really found his footing. But Marvin Mims, who was a Pro Bowl returner a year ago and had 4 of the 7 plays over 47 yards that the Broncos had, he had 4 of them. They haven't gotten him involved in the passing game very much, and that's the guy they traded up to go get in the second round. So I think that you'll see them want to use Mims. They signed Josh Reynolds. He didn't do much last night. I don't feel like he wasn't out there, but I think he was. Obviously, Tim Patrick is a guy they've relied on in the past. He's coming off 2 straight injuries. And Cortland Sutton, you know what he is and you know what he isn't. He's not going to run away from anybody. He doesn't get the best separation. But if you run Sean Payton's offense the right way, people are going to be open. And so it feels like, as we start to get into our fantasy drafts across the board in a PPR league, knowing that he can find the end zone, Cortland Sutton feels like the first Bronco you should take. After that, unless you get return yards, I'd probably stay away from all of their pass catchers. And unless you need 2 tight ends, Greg Dulcich might have a chance to put up some big numbers, but I'm not ready to compare him to Jimmy Graham just yet. So Sutton and maybe Javonte Williams, if he ends up being named starter, are the only guys I'd look at unless he can get return yards. Jaleel McLaughlin's going to have some big games here and there, but he's not that he's a gadget player. They just aren't sure exactly how to use him because he's so small. They don't want to have him in pass blocking situations too much. But it feels like if Tim Patrick does make the team, he's making it to start. Because that's the thing, too. For the touchdown catch, that was great for a guy that hasn't had one in 1,000 days when you talk about the last time he scored, even though this one didn't count. But the catch on the drive to as they were moving the sticks, it was the first down on a hook in the middle of the field. That's why you have Tim Patrick out there, because he's your most reliable guy on third down. That's why they paid him 3 years, $30 million 2 years ago before he got hurt, and then obviously he missed those 2 seasons. But he was their most reliable guy for a couple of years, even as good as Cortland Sutton had been at times.
Hey, Brandon, what position group's been the most impressive in camp thus far through your eyes?
The wideouts certainly, it feels like you could go a lot of different ways and feel good about it. So they're up there. The corner group has been interesting because you know how good Pat Surtain is, and Riley Moss and Damari Mathis have both had good camps. And then the tight ends quietly have all made plays. So I mentioned Greg Dulcich, but this kid Lucas Kroll, they really like his athleticism. And then there's also just Adam Troutman, who's reliable. There's a kid named Nate Atkins that could end up being the H-back again, but more of a fullback if they decide to cut true fullback Michael Burton. And then they also got this kid Campmore that they picked up right at the start of camp. I want to say he might have been even with the Chargers at one point. And so the tight ends quietly just show up every day. They've all made plays. And so nobody's going to make you want to think, oh, we should bet the Broncos to win the Super Bowl just yet. Although the quarterbacks, like you look last night at that game or Thursday or Friday at practice, and you think, hey, Jordan Love's the highest paid quarterback in football, and that's great. The gap between Jordan Love and Sean Clifford and Michael Pratt, if I'm Brian Gutekunst, I'm calling up George Payton today, if they didn't already talk at the game last night, but I'm calling and saying, hey, are Zach Wilson or Jarrett Stidham available, especially Wilson? I know you got a 6 for him, or send a 6 for him. We'll send you a 5th, right? And so I think that the quarterbacks have all been steady, and we've seen it in both preseason games. So, and then actually, I'm skipping the most obvious. The D-line group has been really, really good. They've been good in pass pressure, and I'm not talking about the guys off the edge, but the front three of the 3-4, or 4 big bodies when they go short yardage. The addition of Jonathan Franklin Myers, JFM, and Malcolm Roach coming over in free agency has just made them so much more stout against the run when you factor in what DJ Jones and Zach Allen can do. So that's why the Broncos are going to be better, I think, defensively than they were. And we know at times they were on a record-setting clip, for 5 straight games with those interceptions and takeaways. But the D-line group is the most improved and the most consistent, because even they're going to have a hard time picking the 6 they want to keep, because they got about 8 or 9 that could all not only play but be impactful.
Okay, at this point in time, tell me, Brandon, what's your biggest concern overall with the roster?
The youth, and, Sean's leaning into it for the first time in forever, because we know he didn't have a lot of young players. Obviously, he'd sprinkle them in, but just the idea that he keeps saying over and over that young and hungry can be dangerous. So he's really embracing that. And they are young in a bunch of spots. When you move on from Justin Simmons, you move on from Josie Jewell, and obviously Russell Wilson, certainly in his mid-30s, you just get younger, right? And Bo Nix is an old rookie, as is Devon Bailey, the wideout from Utah, who's a 26-year-old rookie. But little Jordan Humphrey's out there, and he's 26, right? So and he's in year 4 or 5. And so they're a young team, and so I think that they're embracing that, and that's kind of been fun to see. But I think they're unproven. I don't know if they're untalented; they're unproven, and that's where the criticism of the roster is coming from. They think it's a lack of talent, but I don't think any team's as deep as they'd like to be. The Broncos' top-end talent in some spots may not be where you'd want to see when you compare it with a roster like the Eagles, the Niners, certainly with what the Chiefs have. Obviously their quarterback and tight end kind of change everything, and Chris Jones too. I mean, you've got 3 of the 10 best players all on the same team right there, but they're good in a lot of spots. The Broncos O-line, a little suspect protecting the quarterback when he drops back to pass. I know Russell Wilson skewed those numbers, but Mike McGlinchey, we know what he is and we know what he isn't. He's not the best pass blocker. And Ben Powers, a left guard who they brought in from Baltimore, not the best pass blocker. So I think that everyone that has predicted their ceiling is keeping it at 10 wins at most or lower, because they just don't trust that roster. And the idea of a rookie QB, right? We've never seen a rookie QB go to a Super Bowl. We've seen guys in year 2 get there that maybe weren't even ready. You mentioned Russell Wilson and Ben Roethlisberger, guys like that, who not only went, but they won it. Dan Marino went in year 2. We've seen a lot of guys go in year 2. Have they gone and won it in year 2, but we haven't seen anybody go in year 1. And they're in the division with the Chiefs, obviously. So there's that. Plus, you look at the Bills and the Bengals and the Ravens, and we can keep going. The Steelers, who we'll see in week 2, although they seem to have an offensive identity crisis right now until they figure out their quarterback scenario. But so I think that's it. It's that they're just unproven, and so that kind of scares people off, if you will.
Hey, Brandon, I'm curious. Have you had a chance to talk to Will Lutz? I'm wondering what the kicker's philosophy is and thoughts on the new dynamic kickoff rule in the NFL.
We really haven't. They haven't made the specialists available, and I was because they brought all 3 quarterbacks into the interview room last night after Sean Payton, I didn't get to the locker room till late, so there's a couple defensive guys that were slow to to get dressed or whatever. And so I missed Will, and we just haven't really seen him. But Will's a good dude to talk to in general, and I know Riley Dixon, the punter, because he was here as a rookie back in 2016, right after they won the Super Bowl. And so he's been back, and so those guys' lockers are near each other. And when we get in there in 2 weeks, maybe the first chance we get to talk to Will, unless we request him, because they don't put kickers on the podium. But it is interesting listening to the way Sean Payton talks about it, and then listening to how the special teams coaches talk about it. It feels like because Mike Westhoff is here, even though he's not the special teams coordinator, he's just consultant or whatever his job title is. But Mike Westhoff will tell you that he invented special teams, more or less. And Sean Payton certainly will. He has no problem letting you know how much he knows about football. That the Broncos run the risk of getting too cute on kickoffs, whereas I think if you ask not only their defensive coaches, but defensive coaches around the league, they'll say, hey, especially here in Denver, just kick it out of the back of the end zone. You've got the altitude, the elevation, thin air. Let's just get the ball at the 30, and we'll stop them from the 30, okay? It used to be the 20, then it was the 25, now it's the 30, and I think most defensive coordinators are saying, fine, put it on the 30, then I don't lose any guys going down in kick coverage and have any freak injuries, and then we can just play defense. So, it does feel like teams are certainly holding back, and it has the potential to be a really exciting play if teams return the ball. It just feels like the Broncos are going to end up trying to kick it into that landing zone to get the touchback or to get it at the 20 and end up coming back to bite them. But I think that it has to go up. I just haven't, the number of returns from what we saw a year ago, especially here in Denver where there's almost never any. But I think until you make the penalty for the automatic touchback, the 40, you're not scaring teams off enough. And I think if they get burned once, then they'll just kick it out of the end zone, and that'll be that.
All right, before you go, one final question. I heard that you have this concept that you want to open up a sports bar, and for decoration, you want to have random jerseys from random players up on the wall. Is that true?
Well, so sort of, and I'm not sure where you got this, but to give you the detail and the backstory, because I had the idea for a while, and then I worked with Steve Atwater for a little bit, and it just got me thinking. So it's called Last Chance, and the drinks get cheaper as the night goes on. So that the idea is that you maybe the person you were talking to early decides they're not that into you, and so by the end of the night, maybe they are with a couple more cheap drinks. I understand that it's also potentially wrought with peril, but the decor is all the jerseys from the greats that finished with stupid teams, like Hakeem Olajuwon's Raptors jersey or Scottie Pippen's Blazers jersey or Joe Namath with the Rams. I mentioned Steve Atwater. Steve has a year in New York that he would like to forget with the Jets. And so that's sort of the idea. Emmitt Smith Cardinals jersey. Because what happened was I was at a sports bar in Fort Myers. Shoot, how old's my oldest? So 7 years ago. And the Lightning are in the Stanley Cup, and we were kind of watching it. And we were there on a work trip with my wife, kind of making our way through Florida. And this sports bar had really, really cool memorabilia for being attached to a hotel there in Fort Myers. I think the Twins might actually have stayed there during their spring training. But it had all these cool jerseys. And then totally randomly, it had Joe Montana's Chiefs jersey. And I get that he went to 2 Pro Bowls and maybe even an AFC title game with the Chiefs. But no one's really, unless you're a Chiefs fan, wants a Joe Montana Chiefs jersey other than for the novelty of it. So it's like you see a Marino Dolphins jersey, an Aikman jersey, right? An Elway Broncos jersey. And then there was this random Joe Montana Chiefs jersey. I'm like, how's this guy have this crazy collection? And then that's the only Joe Montana jersey that's there. So I thought that's what gave me the idea that decorating it with all of the great players' final teams where they, Shaq with the Suns or even with the Celtics. I don't think people even remember that Shaq was with the Celtics or the Cavs, right? You could do a bunch with Shaq because they all kind of felt the same there at the end. But I don't have any designs to actually open it, but when I do, if I can get the right investor and the right person to run the restaurant, I've got the ideas down.
I like it. Even Alex English with a Mavericks jersey, that'd be pretty bizarre.
Alex English with a Mavericks jersey. I grew up in Dallas, and right when he got traded, I'm not making this up, I was in, I think, still elementary school or early in junior high, and I'm walking through North Park Mall and walking by a sports store, and I see like a picture or something, and I say to my dad, I wonder how Alex English is going to do with the Mavs. And no, I cannot make this up. Turn the corner and literally physically run into Alex English, who's wearing Maverick super short shorts because they were still into short shorts back then, and a Maverick like workout T-shirt. And I'm like, the universe was trying to tell me that that Alex English is going to be great for the Mavs, but we know it never really worked out like that.
Dude, that's awesome. I like the concept. You like that, Godfather?
I do. I just wonder where you're going to find those. You're going to try and get the real ones, or
I think you gotta just suspend reality on some of them because there's not that many available. But you want to do the best you can. And the one thing I know is that a lot of guys didn't hold on to that stuff because they didn't really like. Steve Atwater doesn't want to talk about the Jets at all, right? And so especially because he got hurt against the Broncos, but or TD got hurt against the Jets, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Either way, Steve doesn't want to talk about his time in New York. Other people are a little more fond of it, like Emmitt Smith rushed for 1,000 yards in Arizona, even though no one remembers that. You know, Tony Dorsett finished his career here in Denver.
Yeah.
I'd love to get one of those. One of those
Broncos
jerseys.
jersey.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I do have one more super quick, only just along the same stupid lines. Brandon Marshall, the linebacker, goes to the Raiders at the end of his career, whatever, towards the end, and has a charity event back here in Denver and brings 2 Antonio Brown Raiders jerseys. They're game jerseys, but obviously he just gotten there, so he gets the equipment guys to make it up. Maybe it was one that he held up at the signing.
Yeah.
He signs them both. They each went for $300. Brandon bought one. My friend Eric bought the other. And you talk about a totally random, unique piece of memorabilia. There can't be too many Antonio Brown Raiders jerseys because he never played a single down for him.
It's true.
He never played a preseason game. And so to have one of those just few things signed, if he ever does end up in the Hall of Fame, it'll be worth even more. And, you know, AB's way out there right now. But I just always appreciate it, and I'm mad at myself for not bidding on the other one that Brandon just basically bought because he felt, you know, like it'd be cool too. Because I could have gotten it for about $300, and then I'd have a really cool talking point.
Gosh, I love the concept, man. Brandon Cristal, 850 KOA. You're the man, dude. That was awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the week, and hopefully we'll get an announcement on the starting quarterback here real soon.
Yeah, if it doesn't happen by Wednesday, I'll be surprised. But Chad, Dwight, always great talking to you, and have me on for a Bo Nix update whenever.
Okay, you got it. There you go. Brandon Cristal.
Yeah.
I like that concept because it is weird when you think of certain athletes in certain jerseys, right? Like, can you think of a baseball player that ended up in a jersey that you're like, that's just wrong? Because Emmitt Smith in a Cardinal jersey was bizarre.
Yeah, Babe Ruth with the Cubs would be one that you'd like to have.
Did he finish up with the Cubs?
Yeah, I think so.
How much would you have to pay for one of those?
I don't even know. In those days, it probably didn't have his name on the back. That would be the problem.
Just a number, right?
Yeah, in those days, some of them didn't even have numbers in the early days, you know.
All right, when we come back, speaking of Scottie Pippen, he's changing his tune, Godfather.
Yeah.
What's going on
I'm
there?
shocked. He's got a great voice, though.
He does. You'll hear the latest from No Tippin' Pippen coming up next. All right, it's nice. We've got David Janes hanging out in the studio with us today, the son of the godbrother, David Janes. It's great to have him in studio. We were just looking up some baseball stats because you had sent me that video with Ken Griffey Jr. talking about his encounter with Nolan Ryan when Nolan was trying to use different types of intimidation on him.
Yeah, tried everything.
And it didn't work. So I think he earned Nolan's respect. But then I saw some random Nolan stat over the weekend, and I follow some site that kicks out random Nolan stats because I'm fascinated by Nolan Ryan because he's like a mythical figure. He's like Paul Bunyan. He had a 235 pitch performance, and David told me it was over the course of 13 innings with 19 strikeouts and 10 walks and only gave up 3 runs. I mean, can you imagine Dave Roberts, manager for the Dodgers, watching one of his pitchers throw 235 pitches in an outing? He would lose his mind.
Yeah.
That's like 4 outings for like a Dodger pitcher today to get to total 235. What a badass. Like, how can you just not look at Nolan Ryan and be like, okay, dude, I tipped the cap. You're just a man.
How many no-hitters, one-hitters? You used to know that stat. No-hitters,
one-hitters,
and 2-hitters.
Yeah.
It's like ridiculous.
Yeah, Nolan Ryan, he leads Major League history. These are great stats. Nolan Ryan. So the no-hitters, I believe it's 7, if I recall correctly. So he threw 7 no-hitters spanning from 73, with this last one being May 1st of 1991.
Wow.
18 years apart. Okay. And but on top of that, the one-hitters, this is classic here. 12 one-hitters, Godfather. 12! How close was he to getting another 3 or 4 no-hitters?
Real close. He lost some in the 9th inning, yeah.
Gosh, dang, he's a freak show. And then the 2-hitters, 18.
Let me give you one more stat that's amazing. I believe this is true. He never won a Cy Young Award.
That's true. He didn't, which is total.
It's incredible.
Rubbish. It's rubbish.
It's incredible. With all the strikeouts, all the no-hitters. Gosh.
He is one of only 31 players in baseball history to have appeared in Major League games in 4 different decades. It's so good. He's amazing. 235 pitches. How does your arm not just fall off your body when you do that?
Oh, man. He probably started again in 4 days, too.
Yeah. I think he did.
Yeah.
I think that's what I read, is that he got back and had a normal start like 4 days later.
Took his normal turn.
All right. I want to play this for you. Scottie Pippen, who I don't know how to classify his behavior since the Last Dance was played. Bizarre? How would you describe it? He's been saying some crazy stuff over the last few years.
Yeah, he's hard to figure right now. I think he's listening to other people tell him what to say or how to act or something. I don't know what his deal is. He's a strange guy anyway.
Was he strange when you covered him?
Yeah, he's a strange guy.
My only encounter with him, one of my very first Blazer games I went to is like, I went back there and my brother was with me, and he was like, "Get away from me, paparazzi!" And then he was like really weird. It was strange.
Yeah. He was different with the media, too. It was like, and Jason Quick will tell you the stories about if you want to be on the inner circle, you better write this or not write that or whatever. He always talked about the inner circle,
Interesting.
Feed you little things or whatever. But
all right. Well, let's take a listen to Scotty's latest thoughts on MJ and The Last Dance.
I thought it was special. I thought it was a special moment for us to really relive some of the greatest time in basketball history, and more so have an opportunity to see what team basketball was like. And I think during the pandemic, everyone sitting home, it was more like an educational tool to let people see how great the game can be if it's played the right way, and if there's sharing of the basketball. There's unlimited things that you can achieve in a game of basketball. And we were able to win 6 titles over a decade, and that's a pretty high accomplishment.
People hate comparisons, and especially over different eras. But from where you were standing and playing, was Michael the best or the greatest ever?
For sure. I mean, you look at the MVPs that he was able to achieve, but I think it was all brought from us being successful as a team. Obviously, someone is going to bring those accolades home, but yeah, he was the greatest player, definitely in basketball.
I started getting so upset when they started kind of leaving you out during that doco series because you always came across to me as just a hardworking dude, immensely talented, but just so affable. And when the management started messing around, it was like awful.
Yeah, it was to some degree, but I think at that point they were sort of ready to move on from that group nucleus of players. And I think as professionals, we've seen that happen year in and year out, where owners decide to go in a different direction, and as a player, you're prepared for it. Guys get traded every day, so it was kind of tough for us to have to leave that championship nucleus, but we had to pick up and move on.
He sounds like he's turned a leaf, Godfather.
I couldn't believe how settled he sounded, how grounded, when in the past he's been a little more, I don't know, I wouldn't say hysteric, but, he's had his share of rants about Jordan and about the team and the way he was treated there, all that stuff. Now, all of a sudden, everything's fine, copacetic, everything's great.
One other quick note on Nolan Ryan after that 235-pitch performance.
Yeah.
3 days rest.
No, 3 days rest?
And then he went out and threw 6 scoreless innings against the Yankees.
Oh, God. He was Superman.
All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad continues. We'll hit on Bo Nix next. What can you take from the preseason? We'll dive into it. All right, 5 o'clock chat here. What's up, my friends? Hope you're enjoying your Monday afternoon. Well, we got the Kickoff Classic coming up on Saturday. You got to love it, 9 o'clock on ESPN. It'll be number 10 Florida State taking on Georgia Tech. The Noles favored by 10. From the NFL, Antonio Pierce has named Gardner Minshew the Raiders' starting quarterback for the 24 season, and the Washington Commanders have given the nod to rookie Jaden Daniels. Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy has told his players to have their agents stop calling and trying to negotiate for more money, saying their next chance to negotiate will be when the portal opens in December. The Mariners going to try and get on track tonight. They've dropped 5 of 6. They're 4 back of the Astros in the West. They open up a 3-game set in L.A. against the Dodgers. Brian Wu will be on the bump tonight for Seattle. Coming up at 5:20, Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, going to join Dwight and I and talk some NFL. And Shacker pulling out a classic here, Prince, Party Man from the original Batman, which I think came out in like 1989.
Don't remember it.
You don't remember Batman?
No, I remember the movie. I don't remember the song at all.
This is when Jack Napier, the Joker, was hooking up with Vicky Vale at the art museum.
That's right.
His henchman was holding the ghetto blaster.
Very nice. That's also the same summer that Ghostbusters 2 came out with Bobby Brown on the soundtrack, which was nice. Back when we used to have summer blockbusters. Yeah. And where's all the blockbusters now, man? What's up with Hollywood? They suck now, Godfather.
Wolverine made $1 billion in about 3 weeks.
What did?
Wolverine and Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, I think I texted that to you. I have not heard any buzz about that movie, and it's making money hand over fist. Have you seen it, Mike?
No, I have not seen it. I'll just wait till it's on the Disney app. I'm in no hurry to see movies in the theater anymore.
I like
it's
a
football
show like
season.
That would be good in the theater, I think.
I don't even know anything about Wolverine, honestly. What's it about?
Well, he's just another Marvel superhero.
Oh, gosh, Marvel.
Guy that turns into a Wolverine.
I mean, are you into the movie?
No. I'm not a superhero movie guy, really. I always loved the Batman movies, and that's about it. And they're kind of dark. That's what I like about them. You know, Batman was always a rather dark character. Used to read him in the comics. I read Superman and Batman. I was a DC Comics guy. I didn't read the Marvel comics very much.
Yeah, I was DC as well. I was a big Superman fan. And I thought the Man of Steel, they just keep screwing them up, man.
Yeah.
Man of Steel was a great movie, and yet what do we get after that? Batman and Superman?
Batman versus Superman, and Batman wins, which is the most ridiculous thing ever.
I protested because I was so irritated that I refused to watch the movie. And who plays Batman? It's, what's his nuts? Ben? Yeah, it's Affleck.
Yeah.
Whatever, man. I don't need that stuff in my life. If they're going to screw up good movies, I'm just done with it. They screwed up the Hulk. The Hulk is my favorite superhero all time. Love the TV series, and they can't get the movies right. I'm just done with it, Godfather. But I'm just saying that overall, where are the summer blockbusters now? Where are they?
I think they're all on Netflix, and Amazon, and Apple. I'm watching a pretty good one. I think it's on, what are we watching it on? Apple Plus or something. Mad Monkey with, what's his name?
Shaq, are you watching Mad Monkey? What are you watching right now?
No, I don't watch any monkey shows. Isn't there like a chimp show on HBO too?
No, it's not a chimp show. It's a Vince Vaughn movie. I am a Vince Vaughn fan. It's a book. It's a take of a book written by a guy named Carl Hyacin, who was a columnist in Miami, who was always making fun of the Miami culture of goofy stuff going on. And so he wrote novels based on all the goofy things he had seen. And this movie's going to get a lot goofier before it's over.
I'm going through a phase right now. I'm watching old TV shows, like real old TV shows, going back and watching
I know.
from episode 1 up. I'm
Perry
just doing
Mason.
that. Perry Mason, I'm a big fan of. I'm just watching old shows. I can't get into the new shows.
Have you watched any Rockford Files?
Yes.
Oh, man.
I need to go back through from the first episode and watch all the way through.
They're so good.
I've done that with a number of series, and I forget how much I enjoy. Like, even though it's outdated in terms of technology and some of the stuff that's going on, I still find great pleasure in doing that. So I'd recommend it. All right, here's a question I have, Godfather, because last night, I'm not going to lie, I was really excited watching Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt I was getting texts constantly from other people who are Duck fans.
They bombard you with that.
I was getting bombarded. And it was all positive stuff. Man, Bo looks legit. Bo looks like the real deal. Justin Myers was reaching out to me. All these people. And I started to get caught up in the excitement. I'm like, what if they found their guy? What if he is the next John Elway or Peyton Manning? What if they've solved that issue? What if Sean Payton is right? And what if he becomes C.J. Stroud and all of a sudden they become out of nowhere a playoff team and look great? And then I started to remember, like, wait a second. What am I doing here, you moron? It's the preseason.
Yeah, reality grabbed you by the neck and shook you a little bit.
It did, because then I realized, like, they didn't play against any of the starters against Indy, and Bo didn't play against any of the starters last night. So I'm not trying to – I don't know what to say. I've watched enough football to know that the preseason doesn't mean jack. So how much can I take away from what Bo has done in the preseason to be able to know that he is going to be the guy? Or do I just need to wait until the regular season begins?
You got to wait.
Then why are people so excited?
Because you've pointed this out so many times. If the guy's terrible in preseason.
It's just a preseason.
Preseason doesn't matter.
Yeah.
What are you worried about? Yeah, it's just preseason. But if he's good in preseason.
They found their guy.
Yeah, Hall of Fame coming up. Get the gold jacket ready.
Yeah, I'm it's like, when you're, for those people, and I've been there before, you fall in love and you're in deep and then you get your heart broken.
Yeah.
And then moving forward, you start to put up, boundaries, or you try to shield your heart from that type of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've gone through enough of this as a sports fan to where I get excited, I get my hopes up, I fall in love, and then I get my heart broken. And I want to believe that Bo is the one, right? I do, because I like Bo. He's the type of guy I want leading my franchise. He's a good dude. He's a great teammate.
Yeah.
He's a man of character.
Right.
And he appears to be a darn good football player. But if I get too excited right now, and then all of a sudden he shows up in Seattle for week 1 in front of, 75,000 freaks, the 12s, and all of a sudden he throws 3 picks, and then he doesn't look so good, then I just need to pace myself here.
And then on Monday morning, Softy is just roasting him.
Yeah. But that's the way it will be, and they'll overreact to that, right?
Yeah.
I've never – this is a place where I've never been before in my life where we take the preseason and we start making bold judgments off of that. That never used to happen in the past, but with today's coverage and the NFL being so big and social media and everyone's got a hot take, everyone's breaking down the preseason like somehow it matters. And it doesn't matter, Godfather.
I think you have to go into the regular season with realistic expectations. You have to understand he's going to make mistakes, and watch for improvement. Kind of the way we took the Blazer season last year. We went in thinking, well, we'll just see. We'll see how these guys develop.
Yeah.
We didn't expect a lot at the start. And even then, I think we were a little disappointed.
Well, I expected more from the start from Scoot than what we got.
Exactly. We did. But I think the point is development. What is he at the start? What is he at the end of the season? What do we see improvement-wise?
But in terms of what I see, we were talking about looking the part, right? Smarts. So he understands the offense. He knows the plays. He knows where to go with the football. But what I saw last night, Godfather, was, one, athleticism, showing the ability to improvise and throw on the run, which I think is what every quarterback needs to have in their bag in the NFL, but also making throws over the middle in tight windows with some extra zip on the ball.
And unafraid to do it. He
no hesitation.
Stepped right up and did
And
it.
that deep in cut that he threw right on the money to Cortland Sutton, like, that had some zip on it too. Like, he's not the guy that's going to launch it 70 yards downfield like Patrick Mahomes, but just having the accuracy and the arm strength to be able to put the ball in a tight window over the middle, that's critical. Those throws come up all the time.
You remember that clip we saw of Sean Payton after he had the private workout with Nix, and he was saying, we had him throw a lot of really short throws because that's where you really find out about his accuracy. He said when you throw downfield, you can stretch that. You don't have to be as accurate. But on those short throws, small windows, you got to hit the shoulder. You got to hit the belly. You got to hit the right arm, whatever. And he said they came away and they all got in the car, all the coaches, and they said, "Are you kidding me? Did we see that?" And that's the way it's been. And his accuracy so far is really holding up. And I think that's a difference maker in that league. Throw guys open. You're not going to be able to hit that window all the time. Throw somebody open.
All right. Well, I don't expect him to play against Arizona in the finale. I think Sean Payton will name a starter here in the next day or two. It'll be Bo Nix, and then his next game will be Week 1 in Seattle against the Seahawks. I'm going to go to that game.
I was going to say, I'm going to go up.
Yeah. I want to be there to see.
You get a press pass for that one.
Well, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to go up and get a pass, and I just want to be there to see his first start and see how it goes. I don't expect much in Seattle. That's a brutal place to open as a rookie and a quarterback because it's so loud there.
That's about as bad as it gets for a rookie, I would think.
All right, Rip City Drive to White and Chad. We got Brian O coming up in a few minutes. I did want to mention I played at Sienna Golf Club down in Vegas on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
It's awesome.
Really?
Yeah, so if you're going down, and there's a lot of golf courses down there, Todd Cruz is the gentleman who got me on there. A big thanks to Rev for getting me in contact with Todd. But it was great because I got up early on Saturday. I got into Vegas on Friday night, and I got up on Saturday, and my boy Steve took off to go to work, and then I caught an Uber over to the golf course, and I got there about an hour before. Great practice facility with range and putting green, everything you need. Grass tees, which was nice. So I got about an hour warm-up in. I was concerned about being too hot because it was going to be 106, but there was a wind, a lot of breeze throughout the afternoon. So it didn't feel like it was 106, which was good. And I played well. I opened up, and I was hitting the ball well. My swing felt good. I had a couple of issues on the front side, and I was 7 over on the front. So I was a little bit bitter because I had a couple of double bogeys. But on the back, I had 3 birdies, and I wanted to break 80 on a course I'd never played before. So I drove the green on the par 4 16th, which felt pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Missed my eagle putt, but got the birdie. I parred the par 3 17th, and then on 18, hit a great drive, approach shot about 10 feet from the pin, and I made the putt to birdie the final hole to get the 79.
Wow.
So no matter what, I was just on cloud 9 the rest of the day.
79 on a strange course is amazing no matter where it is.
That made my weekend right there, Godfather. I was happy the rest of the weekend. And then after that, I get Bo Nix last night doing what he's doing to the Packers. What more can a man ask for?
Yeah, big weekend for you.
Is this Primus Shacker? Mud? I'm sad because summertime's almost over and my golf season's coming to an end.
Slipping away.
I talked to the guys down there I play with. 3 guys I was paired up with, all locals.
Mm-hmm.
They said they play year-round.
Sure.
No rain.
Yeah. Gets cold down there, though, in the winter.
That's okay.
Yeah,
just
you play in that.
Yeah, just put on some warmer gear, but it's not wet. That's not the case here, is it?
No.
All right, when we come back, Brian O, Fox Sports Radio. We'll get his take on the preseason. And what about the Raiders quarterback situation? It looks pretty bad. Caleb Williams, how about him and Odunze already putting on a show in the preseason?
Oh, yeah, that's to be expected.
You like Odunze, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
All right,
Terrific.
Brian O.
Yeah.
Bino! He's coming up next. All right, Brian Noe is so cool that he gets whatever music he wants to walk up on, and that means death metal. Bino, Fox Sports Radio is back. What's up, Bino?
What is going on, Chad? Doing? Yeah, it's very nice of you to say that. And how about my guy, Shaq Diesel? Mike Shacker checking out some Lamb of God action.
He's got you, man. He's got your back. No?
That was beautiful. I love that. That's awesome. You know, it's funny because, listen, the metalheads, they're out there. But you can't just go to your job and be surrounded by, like 50, like 80% metalheads. So when you find one, you're like, oh my, it's a diamond in the rough right there. So I salute Shaq Diesel for being a metalhead here.
Well, Pino, I got to explain my dilemma, and I know you can bring some intelligence to this conversation here, but as you might imagine, over the last 24 hours, Duck fans and Bronco fans have been overloading my phone with messages about Bo's greatness, about how he looks the part, he's awesome, he's this, he's that, he's everything. And I started to get sucked into the excitement last night. I'm like, maybe they did find the next John Elway. And then I remembered, it's the preseason. The Packers didn't play any of their starters last night. So I'm wondering for you, whether it's Bo Nix or Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, how much can we take from the preseason to know whether or not these teams have found their guy?
I think that two things. I think one is it's a little bit like basketball. If it's a preseason game, and a good example, Summer League, Reed Shepherd, he's going to be with the Houston Rockets. If he's hitting deep threes, I know it's against some dudes that aren't even going to sniff the NBA, but when you're hitting logo threes, that's going to translate. And so to me, it's similar with quarterbacks is what's going to translate even though it's not against the starters. Jaden Daniels, in his one drive against the Jets, he didn't complete a ball against Sauce Gardner, but the corner for the Jets had really good coverage on a go ball, and it was pinpoint accuracy, and it's like, okay, that's going to translate. And there have been some things with Bo Nix that will translate. The other part of this is I do a show on Sundays, and Jeff Schwartz, he's a former NFL offensive lineman. And I like how he described the preseason, especially when it's a starting offense against the number 2 defense, like the Broncos last night against the Packers. It should look good, right? Let's start with it. It should look like that. So if they're doing what they should, if Bo Nix looks like he should, I don't think we should be doing naked cartwheels in the streets because of it, right? Like, we're acting like he did something that was unexpected or that was way above expectations. You should carve up a number 2 defense. So while there are some things that will translate, let's not act like he's doing it against starters just yet.
What do you think of Caleb Williams with all that said?
Same thing, Dwight, is you saw a couple of throws where in the second quarter the go ball with Roma Dunze against Cincy, that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to translate against the starters. But, I mean, people are glossing over. They had 3 straight 3-and-outs with the number 1 offense against the Cincy backup defense. Like, that's not a great sign either. So I think that the playmaking ability for Caleb Williams is certainly there. But, man, what do you think's going to happen if you go 3 straight drives, 3-and-out against the 2s? What do you think's going to happen against the 1s? So I'm expecting a lot of growing pains from that Bears offense.
It's pretty awesome. Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio, is with us. I want to play something for you because I want your take on this. But we know that he named Gardner Minshew the starter, but take a listen to Antonio Pierce after that disaster of a game, Raiders-Cowboys on Saturday.
I mean, everything. I mean, you can't take the good and not take the bad, right? So wish it ended well for both gentlemen, right? And it just didn't. And we'll look at it, we'll evaluate. They both had opportunities. Aiden had 20 attempts and Minshew had 21. So about as balanced and as we can get it, and we'll look at it. Obviously, you saw what our plan was tonight, throw the ball around, let these guys showcase what they can do, and we'll talk about it.
They're in a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and now Bo Nix, and you've got Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. That's horrible.
That's rough, man. It is. And I was watching that game closely because I might have been betting on it, Chad.
Of course.
No, Dwight is losing respect for me by the comment over here. But
how about that 66-yarder by Aubrey that cleared the goalpost with ease?
That's the thing, too. And he didn't even kick at Notre Dame. On the football team, he was a soccer guy, and had this weird route to be an NFL kicker. And now he's one of the best. He's unbelievable. That guy could hardly miss last season. I think it was the last game of the year against the Commanders he finally missed a field goal.
Jeez.
But he's been money. But, yeah, I was watching the Raider game against the Cowboys. And, look, man, Gardner Minshew really struggled in the first half. And then Aiden O'Connell comes in the second half, at least leads a touchdown drive. And you're like, okay, a little bit of offense. Next thing you know, pick six. And it's just like, what is Antonio Pierce going to do? It really doesn't matter. That's the bottom line. Like, both these guys are comparable. None of them are difference makers, whether it's Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. They're kind of like Band-Aids or stopgaps. They're a break glass in case of emergency type situation. They're not difference makers. And it was the same day, Chad, earlier, where Mahomes goes behind the back to Travis Kelce. That was the same day as the Raiders and the two-headed monster of Minshew and O'Connell stinking it up. It's a rough spot for them to be in. And he said in the offseason he didn't want to have a Band-Aid like quarterback here. He didn't want that type of situation. That's exactly what they have right now. They have slim pickings in the quarterback department when you're looking up at Mahomes in the same division.
Okay, I got to ask you this, Brian, and I hadn't planned on it, but you intimated there that you might have had a few bucks riding on that game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know you're a bright guy. You're a veteran bettor. You've been around this stuff. What would you wager on in that game? Not the winner of the game, I assume. Some sort of touchdown thing or yardage thing?
Yeah.
What did you bet on?
You can break it down in quarters or halves, Dwight.
Yeah.
I was looking at the Raiders in the first half. Their number one offense was going up against the Cowboys' backups. And I'm like, okay, I'd expect them to have the lead. And so that's what I bet on, and that was wrong. So I switched over. I'm like, well, screw the Raiders then. I switched over to the Cowboys and won that money back. And then last night, Broncos, right? The Broncos' number one offense was going up against the Packers' backups. Same thing. First quarter, just went money line. You could go first half, but there's absolutely value when you've got the starters going up against the backups. There should be. Like you should come out on the winning end when that's the case. Yeah. If you don't, that team's really got problems. If they can't beat the backups, that's not a great sign for the regular season.
We're talking with Brian O, Fox Sports Radio here on the Rib City Drive. How do you size up the race in the AFC East with the Dolphins, the Jets, and the Bills?
I think those teams are really evenly matched, Chad. I do. I think what's interesting about the Bills is obviously losing Stephon Diggs. And so Keon Coleman, the second-round rookie out of Florida State, if he can hit the ground running, Josh Allen said he reminds him of a blend of Michael Thomas and Dez Bryant.
Whoa.
Which is pretty high praise. And we know Josh Allen's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. So if he has a connection early on with Keon Coleman, they might not miss as much as some anticipate heading into this season. So the Bills are going to be there. I love the Jets. I do. I think Aaron Rodgers, as long as he's upright, and I don't think lightning strikes again where he's going to have another season-ending injury, at least, if it happens, I don't think it's going to be 4 plays and then he's on the shelf, right? Like, I just don't think there's going to be another season where he barely plays at all. And then when you have one of the best defenses in football and Aaron Rodgers running that offense, I just like what the Jets have heading into this season. A lot of it's going to hinge on the offensive line, how healthy they can be. All the focus is on Rodgers' health. I think most of it should be on the O-line and their health. And then the Dolphins, they're in the mix too. The concern is getting Bradley Chubb and Phillips back from injury. Those guys suffered major injuries, so that's their pass rush. We all know what their offense brings to the table. Again, the question mark, can Tua run it back in the health department when he started all 17 regular season games? If he can do that again, that offense is just a lot to deal with, and they just added more speed. Like they're addicted to speed over there in Miami on the football field, right? It might not be, I make that clear, but you know what I'm saying? And so I think that Bills, Dolphins, Jets, I do. I think they're evenly matched. I would give the slight edge to the Jets, believe it or not. I think Gang Green has a great shot to emerge from that division.
All right, now I want to talk to you about the Steelers. See, here's the thing. Now, I know they're trying to decide who to start at quarterback. I don't even know how you can figure that out because I don't know what they're trying to do offensively. I honestly don't. And I wouldn't watch that team if you paid me to watch that team. I swear it. But what's going on with them? What do you think is happening?
Well, listen, they've got another Band-Aid quarterback type scenario as well.
Yeah.
And I think the conversations are pretty interesting, Dwight, where I hear this about Justin Fields, where it's like, well, I'd go with Justin Fields because he's the ascending player. I hear that quite a bit. And it's like, really? He's ascending? Huh?
To what?
That just means he sucked for 3 years is basically what it's a nice way of saying he stinks out loud. He can't do anything consistently throwing the football, right? He's had 13 preseason drives that's produced 3 total points. And so that's what I think is funny. I'd go with the ascending player and Justin Fields here. Look, man, I'm not telling you Russell Wilson is all world because he's not at this stage of his career. But Russell Wilson today is a better quarterback than Justin Fields.
Yeah.
The situation is that Justin Fields, Dwight, he can ooh and ah us, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's a highlight reel type player in very small sample sizes. He might make a play that leads SportsCenter. And people go, wow, and they overvalue wow. It's just Justin Fields, if it's 3rd and 7 and he's got a wide open guy and he throws the ball behind him and then that leads to 4th and 2 and you got a punt, that's what I'm talking about. That's the difference between winning and losing. It's not just highlight plays. It's the little things. And Justin Fields has never come close to doing those things well in the NFL. And so you're going to hear a bunch of conversation about I'd go with the ascending player and Justin Fields. I'd still go with Russ because he's a better quarterback today. And last year he had 26 touchdown passes in 15 games. This is an honest question. Is Justin Fields ever going to do that in his NFL career?
Yeah.
And I would say probably not.
Yeah.
So spare me on the ascending player conversation. I would go with Russ. I'm not saying he's all world or top 10. He's just better than Justin Fields.
All right, Brian, as you know, every year there's a team that comes out of nowhere that missed the playoffs the year before to make the postseason. So, a few options out there. I just want your take on who might be that team, or maybe it's a couple of teams. Obviously, the Jets you mentioned you're pretty high on. They've got a chance to do that. The Bengals who get Joe Burrow back. Maybe it could be Denver with Bo Nix and his greatness all of a sudden. Or possibly if you look at the NFC South, maybe Atlanta with their talent and their quarterback situation. Who do you think might be that team?
Yeah, I like most of the team. The only team I don't like is the Broncos. Of the 4 you mentioned there, Chad, and that's not to troll you, obviously, but I just think that Bo Nix, it's so hard for any rookie quarterback to hit the ground running, right? What C.J. Stroud did last year is
That's
so
the anomaly,
uncommon.
right? C.J.
Yeah.
Stroud was unreal. That doesn't happen too often.
It really doesn't. And so, look, I get the optimism for Bo Nix, but I want to see him do it against starters. And as a rookie, that's a lot to ask, especially in the same division. He's going to be on the same field as Mahomes, right? Like
crazy.
That's not easy. So, yeah, I think the teams that you mentioned, I love Burrow coming back. They're eventually going to sign Jamar Chase. I don't know why the Bengals are making life so much more difficult on themselves than they need to. He's one of the best receivers in football. Pay the guy.
It's a no-brainer.
Move on with life. It's silly. The Jets, I gave you my spiel on the Jets. I'm high on them. And, yeah, the Falcons, I like these moves. When you add Matthew Judon, they had no pass rush, man. They're dead last in pass rush in terms of sack rate and pressure rate the last 3 years. And so to add Matthew Judon, that's a big get for them. And then, oh, by the way, your former Bronco, Justin Simmons, goes over there. I like Raheem
great
Morris.
Player.
Yeah, what he can do with the defense. Kirk Cousins, say what you will on the primetime stage and all. I get it, but he's worlds better than Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke. So to see what Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson can do, no more loaded boxes for Bijan to run against with Kirk Cousins there. I think Kirk's going to unlock a lot of that offense. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Falcons win the NFC South and they're in the playoffs.
Brian, just one last thing. Switching over to college, and I know you know what's going on out here. I'm just curious your opinion, seriously, about the futures of Oregon State and Washington State. They're orphans right now. What's going to happen to them, do you think?
Yeah, man, that's a great question, Dwight, because I'll put it this way. If, what was it, the Big Ten and the SEC, certainly the SEC, they were like, yeah, we're not interested in Florida State. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
this is Florida State. And in the SEC, at least it makes some geographical sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you would have Florida in that same conference. And Greg Sankey's like, yeah, we're not interested in splitting up the pie at all. And so, listen, if Florida State's trying to get out of the ACC and you at least have multiple conferences saying, nah, not interested right now. I mean, listen, Florida State, football-wise, is a lot sexier than Oregon State and Washington State. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And so I don't know, Dwight. I don't know where they can find a home. I would venture to guess they could find one in a Power 5 conference. You know, it's like if you look at college football with Cal and Stanford and Oregon State and Washington State, at least nowadays, are bringing more to the table than those schools, and they found a Power 5 home.
Yeah.
But to pinpoint where that home might be or where the landscape, which is constantly changing in college football, is going to start to shake out, I have no clue. But, yeah, that's right. It's they're in foster care looking for a new home. Like, it's a weird reality for Washington State and Oregon State right now.
Hey, no, before you go, do you have any musical requests as you walk off into the sunset? Because Shacker is here for whatever wish you have.
Wow, this is unprecedented right here. I love it. We should do this in baseball. You know, if you get a double, we should have like some outro music as well.
That's a great idea. Yes.
Especially if you hit a home run. I want some outro music right there. Yeah. Shacker said, let's say, oh, you know what? This might open your eyes a little bit. This is not the greatest walk-off music, but the Duke. You know, Shacker is a fan of this song, and Randy Bly, the singer of Lamb of God, he sings from the throat. You know, he's one of these kind of like, one of those guys.
Yes.
But the Duke, I mean, almost melodic, if you will, you know? So maybe that's a good little introduction to metal. We're not throwing you straight in the deep end,
you know,
but you're going to have to wipe the water out of your eyes a little bit, right?
Well, this is how good you are, man. You don't just get walk-up music. You get walk-off music, Bino.
That is beautiful, man. Always great hanging out with you guys. I love talking ball with you, and the best to you, and especially Bo Nix as well, Chad.
I appreciate that, my friend. We'll talk soon. There's Brian Noe, Fox Sports Radio here on the Rip City Drive. We'll come back to White and I, and we got some high fives to hand out. Crank it, Shacker. All right, Godfather, I'll let you kick off today's edition of the High Fives. Who are you going to give yours to?
Mine's kind of delayed for a couple of days. Dave Grohl gets mine for his performance Friday night at Providence Park.
All right. Dave Grohl, well-deserved high five for a great show. 30,000 people were there, you said?
30,000, they say. I don't know if I believe that or not. That's a lot of people. But the whole giant field was covered with people. The whole,
The whole shebang.
Yeah, the whole thing.
Well, I'm going to give mine to Bo Nix.
I saved Bo for you. I could have taken Bo, but I thought you'd want him.
He did look pretty good last night.
Pretty nice.
All right. Tomorrow, you and I are going to head down to Corvallis for Oregon State football camp. We're going to be down there talking to the players, the coaches, and the whole deal. We'll get a feel for Oregon State. I'm looking forward to going down. Michael Shacker is going to join us down there. So we do it every year. We get a chance to check in on Beaver football camp.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always fun. Their players are always fun to talk to.
We were blown away by basically every single player we spoke to last year.
Last year was an incredible year. Every player we talked to was fun and engaged and just fun to talk to. It was a good experience.
It is. I want to talk to Trent Bray. I'm excited about that to see where he's at, taking on this challenge. A big challenge, taking over a program. What a year, how things have changed in a year, right? We were down there last summer, and there was talk about being in a position to go out and challenge for the Pac-12 crown.
Yeah.
With Jonathan Smith as head coach, and now they're orphans along with Washington State looking for what the next step is here in the next year or two for what their new conference will look like and a new head coach. It's crazy.
What a situation they're in. So uncertain. I feel for their fans. I think they've got a hardy group of fans, very hardy and resilient. Good for them. They keep showing up.
How much would a win over Oregon mean this year for the Beavs?
Oh, God. You can't even talk about that. It would be monumental.
How devastating would a loss to the Bees be for the Duck fans?
Oh, my God. That would be impossible to get over. I don't know if Lanning would make it back to Eugene.
Someone would lose their job over that one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Because
would Phil Knight step in and make an executive decision? We're firing everybody.
Yeah. But, you look back to 2 years ago and that Civil War game that Oregon State won. That was a pretty incredible game, too.
I put that Civil War number 2 behind the 98 game where, Kent Simonton went wild when it went into double overtime in the rain down at Parker Stadium.
Yes, I saw that one.
That one a couple of years ago was money. That was exciting. Can't believe they came back.
The second half was just like
they didn't even try to throw the football with Branson. They just ran the football.
Ran it. You see, Kerry Eggers reported that his money is on Branson to be the starting quarterback when they open up.
Well, Kerry's going out on a limb then and picking the veteran, just like your brother Bruce picking Georgia and Ohio State to meet in the national championship.
That's his gambling secret, though. Bet the favorites. Make a little at a time.
Yeah, but betting favorites is never a good way to go in Vegas. Right? Everyone bets the favorites.
Yeah, but you still win.
Not if you bet a favorite to cover the spread, you don't.
Well, he's pretty good about picking winners, I think. He seems to do okay. He certainly says he does.
You're not a gambler, are you?
No.
That's good.
No, in my previous job with, dealing with athletes and coaches all the time, that was a no-no. You didn't bet on games.
Oh, I just thought you asked him for information and then use it accordingly.
Make a phone call.
Yeah, make a couple of calls to your guy.
No, you didn't do that. You could get in trouble for that.
Oh, my goodness. I can't believe college football is kicking off this weekend. That's a beautiful thing right there, Godfather.
Yeah, it's just, really no games this weekend that get too excited about.
Well, you get to see Florida State and Georgia Tech, number 10 team in the nation.
They're going to just wallop Georgia Tech.
They're only favored by 10.
Are they?
Yeah. Don't poo-poo on college football kicking off because I feel a little you trying to poo-poo the situation. That's not cool, man.
No, I'm not doing that.
That's what it feels like.
Poo-pooing it.
And you're poo-pooing it is what you're doing.
Poo-pooing it. I looked at the schedule. There's
top 10, Florida State,
I know,
Georgia Tech at 9 a.m.
the only top 25 game, and there's a bunch of other, bums playing.
I know, but the
To
fact
use
that
your word for
they are
those
bums,
teams.
yes. Is Portland State in action? Sorry, Barney. No, I'm just excited for football because once it kicks off, we're going to have football for the next half year, and that's good.
Mhm.
Because football being played is what keeps me alive during the bad weather coming in and my golf season ending. That's a very good thing. I'm excited about that. And then Steve and I will be down in Arizona in 2 weeks for the home opener for Arizona State and Wyoming. And then the next day, we're going to hit the baseball field for the Dodgers and Diamondbacks. That'll be our first sports weekend adventure. And then 2 weeks after that, I'll be in Denver for Pittsburgh and Denver, Broncos and Steelers. Russ making a return home to take on Sean Payton with Bo Nix at quarterback, even though Sean Payton refuses to name Bo Nix a starter. That's good.
Yeah. Bo's going to be the starter. I don't think anybody has any doubt about it. I just don't know.
No, but why doesn't he just come out and name him the starter?
Well, I think
The response to this question, and this is just Sean being an a-hole. He puts a cap on. I'm putting a cap on the Bo questions.
Yeah. Coach, you told Kay Adams the band still has to play a couple more times. Using that metaphor, knowing it's not done yet, how's the band sounding? How are things progressing?
Listen, this is all right. Putting the cap on the Bo questions right here. The band sounds pretty good. I'm not dancing.
I would have followed up with another Bo question, quarterback question right there.
Hey, he would have just walked out and everybody would have been mad at you. Because that's the way those guys operate.
But I guess if you're a big time coach, that's the way they all do it. They're kind of bullies in a way, right? They just don't want to give up the information until they're ready to give it up.
Brandon said he has no problem whatsoever telling you how much he knows about football.
It's true.
Yes. He will tell you that at the drop of a hat.
And apparently he thinks the Bears are dumb for not playing Caleb in that opener in the Hall of Fame game. I love coaches sitting back criticizing other coaching staffs for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't directly from him. That was the source, I think. But, yeah, you don't coach anybody else's team. You coach
I know
your
it came
own
from a
team.
source, but doesn't that sound like something Sean Payton might say?
Yeah, of course. I think it's always a good idea.